There you are. I must have you muted. No. I can't hear you. It looks like you can hear me.
Okay.
There you are.
Cool.
There you are.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's amazing to think how quickly things changed since we were sort of talking about. I definitely had that like bad feeling that things were going to change pretty rapidly. So I'm glad I stayed, but it's bananas.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's nuts everywhere, in every way, everything.
Yeah. It's definitely a new paradigm, that's for sure. So anyway, you doing well?
Doing well. Still, well, no, everything's all messed up. The next 3 months of work are gone. And still skiing now. I was supposed to be in Canada right now for work, but that evaporated. I skied for fun today.
Nice.
That's cool. I'll work tomorrow, but that might be it. It's hard to say.
That's the hardest thing about what's going on right now is just the absolute lack of uncertainty about literally anything. So yeah, it's amazing how much we rely on the ability to make plans. Just like as a mental thing, it's like,
yeah.
Because Lily and I have been thinking like, oh yeah, what should we do about Charlotte's, summer? And it's like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I could see us, we have plans to go to Michigan for July and August, but like, we might have to drive. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
So it's amazing when you remove that element of like, oh, you actually can't look at a calendar anymore, and you can't think about, planning basically anything, a birthday that you might have in the fall or whatever the case may be. It's like you just can't do those things, and it's amazing how much we rely on doing those things.
Yeah, it's simultaneously unsettling and fascinating.
Yeah. It really.
Yeah, and that's all. That's sort of where this came from. Like, if we can't make real plans, might as well make hypothetical, tentative, theoretical dreams, right? Put them in dream mode.
Yeah.
And worry about the calendar later on.
Totally.
Yeah. Can we dive right in here?
Let's do it.
We have actual viewers watching in anonymously here.
Wow.
I know. That's cool. This is the first thing I'm doing. I think it could be kind of neat. I have no idea what it'll end up being in general. At the very least, hopefully it gives some teeth to your particular idea, vision, dream. And along those lines, we'll dive into specifics, but I'll talk directly to you and your abilities. I know your background a ton.
Sure.
But I think it would be helpful for the archives or what have you is for you to tell a little bit about your ski and backcountry ski background up to this point.
Sure. So, as you know, you've basically been there for the vast majority of it, and I'm trying to remember exactly what year you and I started skiing together. I think it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. something like that.
Yeah, it would have been 2015 or 16.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so 4 or 5 years ago. Um, and skied a bunch at like recreationally and in the resort. And then once I started getting really excited about the backcountry, sought a guide relationship and a mentor relationship, sort of thinking about skiing a particular objective and using a development period to get to that objective, and kind of not worrying about the objective, which was eventually to ski the Grand, but using that as a maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen kind of goal, but to kind of enjoy the journey getting to that. So spend most of my time really skiing with you, Jed, in the Tetons, occasionally in the Sierra, and then sporadically as the years have developed, kind of in Colorado and whatnot, but mostly guided trips, with kind of usually an eye towards a big objective. And the Grand was that for a while until we skied it 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And now, sort of trying to think about some new dreams and some new big objectives that we can use to kind of work up to. And I mean, I guess, functionally or sort of, I've done a couple ARI level 1 courses, but not level 2. So, I would call myself kind of like a, beginner intermediate kind of, type of backcountry skier. But I forget, I like Mark Smiley's green belt, black belt, kind of concept. I think when I do the math there, I don't know, probably like the first, 1/3 of that section somewhere in there, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fair characterization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, well, cool. And so, what's the dream you're talking about here? What'd you pitch me?
Well, so I pitched you, I know you've got a strong background in the Sierra. That's probably under clubbing that statement a little bit. And, I moved to the Bay Area a couple of years ago, been trying to get out there and just, whether the conditions or timing or whatever, just kind of haven't really had a reason to get over to the East Side and explore some of that stuff. I have, like everybody, thumbed through the pages of the 50 classics, and I saw Cody Townsend's segment on the Giant Steps couloir, and thought it was really cool, and sort of thought to myself, maybe very much like the Grand gave me the opportunity to really set about exploring the Tetons with a perspective that eventually that would all lead up to skiing the Grand. Maybe having kind of a big objective in the Sierra would give me the same opportunity to spend some time around there, explore around that zone, and get to learn it a bit more, given that it's in my, it's not exactly in my backyard, but it's in my home state, so why not? So that was sort of that was the view. And then when I emailed you, I also included the notion of if we were to spend some time in and around that area, also trying to do, Whitney as part of, that kind of, few days out there or something like that. So that was the idea. It's kind of do what I did with you in the Tetons, which is set a big, kind of hairy objective, and use that as kind of the the end state on a path.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. I think that's a logical stepping stone. It's bigger in a lot of ways than skiing the Grand, but it's not unattainable. It's different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run with the whole thing. I think what we should do here is look at the shoot the moon dream vision of skiing. Maybe this isn't even what you had exactly in mind, but maybe it is. skiing the giant steps and the Mountaineers route on Whitney without going back into civilization.
I like that.
Yeah, and in some ways, you look at them on a map; they're really close together. Whitney and Williamson are
Yeah,
kind of close together,
yeah,
and especially in modern times, the low altitude skiing doesn't fill in. So in California, you're dealing with dry approaches and exits, and if you can get high and
yeah,
stay high for a few days, it saves that low altitude stuff. So
yeah.
that's what I've been brainstorming all day long today was
Cool.
the terrain there.
Yeah,
Um, and what that means is a couple things generally in your given your background, the camping is going to be the new thing
totally.
to do that. Uh, and it's not just camping out, it's point to point camping. So lightweight camping equipment, California weather. We'll talk a little bit about season and stuff, but you'll be sleeping with only what you can carry, which is even less comfortable than camping, which has to be you have to grow accustomed to that. You have to work out your
Yeah,
system, and then you just have to get used to it. So that's
right.
going to be new and big. And probably the biggest new thing. All of that you have to camp out for. We'll figure out. I don't know how long it's going to take. I haven't actually looked at the map. That's what we're going to do together. Look at the map. I don't
Right.
know if it's 3 days, 5 days. I don't know. But whatever it is, each day is going to be high exertion and needing to actually recover overnight in whatever camping gear you take. So I think in a general sense, given your background, it's the camping that's going to be new. The ski terrain
Yeah,
itself is totally within your capabilities. The physical demands, the nature, the ascending and climbing is totally within your abilities. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that. Gear wise, it'll be typical ski touring equipment plus crampons, ice axe, and camping gear. And the whole camping gear thing is a rabbit hole we could go down, but uh, it'll depend somewhat on season, and we won't get too much into the specifics. But the goal is probably to get backpacks at like 30 pounds or so, which is attainable in the Sierra in the late winter through the mid spring. Um, I'd say those are the general things I'm thinking of for this particular.
yeah. And I know you'll cover this, but I think the other thing that that I was thinking of too was just trying to think about what do you need to be looking for in a Sierra season to feel like you're going to have a shot at pulling that off. Because my guess is, as we've discussed before, like you kind of know early in the season whether or not you're going to have like an attractive spring skiing situation in the Sierra. And having an idea of like, one, when you would ideally ski it, and two, kind of what you need to see from kind of a season lineup to start feeling like you would have a shot at it. Because part of it too is just like, it's, as I learned from our experience with the Grand, it's really hard to forecast when the Grand I think is probably a little bit more reliable, but I'd love your thoughts on how to think about how the season lines up and what you need to feel like you're going to have a good shot at it.
Yeah, I think just backing up a little bit, the fundamental assumption is that, which might be foreign to a lot of people who ski in different regions, but not every year in the High Sierra has snow, period, or enough snow to ski these big rowdy things. So that's got to get out on the table. It's not a matter of just finding the right weather forecast a week or two out. It's finding the season in which you're going to have the 20, 30 feet of snow that it requires to fill these things in.
Yeah.
And I mean, so a little bit about my background this year. I lived in Bishop for 12 years, skied hundreds of ski descents in the range, climbing all year long there. Last I skied in the Sierra was 2017, so 3 years ago now, a big year. And I lived there through the drought years, but left at the end of the drought years, not necessarily coincidentally. I don't have an excellent handle on how to forecast a good season, but a rough rule of thumb is like, if Mammoth Mountains has gotten 20 feet of snow by the 1st of February, you can anticipate a legit to semi-legit spring ski season. Super rough rule of thumb there.
Yeah.
And what is a spring ski season? I think for these things, a big multi-day, high altitude, rowdy endeavor. If you could do it perfectly, you'd, on that February 1st, they've gotten 20 feet of snow accumulated, not necessarily sitting in place after settlement or whatever, but 20 feet of snow. On February 1st, then you set aside from maybe April 10 to May 10, April 10 to May 20, roughly. Basically, latter half of April, first half of May, somewhere in there, if you've got the flexibility to pin down a 5-day window as it approaches, you're gonna find the time to do it.
Got it.
If I had to roll the dice and pick an actual week of best for the best high Sierra skiing, it'd be the last week of April. If I were traveling there from from the other side of the country or whatever, burning vacation time, etc., I'd pick the last week of April. Not just for this objective, but for any sort of true high Sierra skiing, anything above 11,000, 12,000 feet. And I'm traveling from out of town. It's the last week of April is the sweet spot, I'd say.
Cool.
Some of these 50 classic lines in the Sierra are skied every year. Some are skied once every 5 years. Last season, Cody Townsend skied the Giant Steps. It was a big year. Through the early 2000s, it was probably every other year you could do it. It wasn't as on the radar of folks then. So it's hard to know how frequently it's been in condition because it's got a relatively recent popular history. Mountaineers route is done all the time in all different kinds of conditions, on foot, on skis, on flying saucers, who knows what. That there's a little better institutional knowledge on that one, and it's a little more reliable at the higher altitudes. But we'll look. I have some pictures. We'll look at maps and stuff of some specific things on the Mountaineers route as well. Backing up a little bit, your idea kind of broke the rules. I asked for folks for dreams that I had done, but I haven't done the Giant Steps. I've skied Mount Williamson, I've climbed Mount Williamson, I've climbed a route on the north face of the Williamson. I've stood at the top of the Giant Steps and hoping to ski down it, having scouted it 3 days prior, and all the snow had blown away, so we did not ski it. But I get the general idea. I know where it is, now to get there. I can find it in photos and on a map. But I don't have the specific agenda there.
Well, I also have a history of being a guinea pig for you on a couple of different things. So
that's right. Yeah. We'll scout it out. That's how we roll. On the go. Are we ready to dive right into maps? Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it.
So by the way, like just to set the scene, it's you're looking for a season where, rough rule of thumb, you're talking 20 feet on February 1st at Mammoth. So like, yeah, ish. Like we're just saying that it's not going to be every year, but if you hit that kind of big year where things are starting to feel like you're getting that right Sierra snowpack, that's kind of your first call is in that early February zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then assuming things continue to line up, you're looking at a window of kind of April 10 to May 20, ideally maybe late April. So that's like where we're starting, right? And we're sort of setting aside, like we don't yet know exactly how many days we would set aside, but it's like somewhere in the like 2 to 5 zone, 3 to 5 zone, something like that.
Yeah.
Just start, right? That's where we are right now in terms of how we've like honed in.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to pull up CalTopo and then switch to show my screen. Let me do a couple things here. And we'll just look at the map together and kind of brainstorm it. Let's get to California. Suppose I could have done this ahead of time. You're not seeing CalTopo yet, are you? Okay, let's see. How do I do that? Now, John, are you seeing CalTopo?
Yep.
Cool. We're down here. Getting there. All right, there's Mount Williamson. I'm just gonna brainstorm this out. All the California big peak skiing has issues on the low altitudes. Sometimes, yes, you can skin to and from, but those are like the 2017s, the 2011s, the giant years. Typically, average to even above average year, I'll explain why later, but I think it should be north to south, Williamson to Whitney, and I'll talk us through why that is. But we're going to start here at the Sims Creek Trailhead. Route to Mount Whitney. And I'm just going to make a line, measure it out super roughly, but there's a trailhead here. It follows this summer trail up over. This is cruel, but it's often dry walking to right here. And then you walk downhill into Shepherd's Creek, on up, continuing up this summer trail. We're looking at miles and miles over Shepherd Pass. And this Sims Creek is a few drainages north of Williamson. Shepherd's is a little closer. But we skip all that, or we start so far north because every other drainage accessing Williamson has a ton of bushwhacking. And it's a big data here. Let's see what the stats are on that. Yeah, 11 miles and 7,500 feet of gain. That's a lot. That's a big day. But in the shape you'll need to be in to do the whole thing, it's not out of the question. Early start, light backpacks, light ski gear. I think we can call that day one to there. Brutal giant day, but in the realm of possibility. And I'll be able to share this whole CalTopo thing with you later on.
Cool.
And then camp one. Camp one is there, somewhere in Williamson Bowl. Now, things get smaller, but no less quick. The standard hiker's route up Mount Williamson is how we're going to go up. And it follows this gully, kind of straight west facing, to this notch before a little scramble onto the summit of Mount Williamson. And then, this is probably going to be blown dry. The only times I've been up there, it's been blown dry. Come back to that same notch. Might even leave skis here, scramble up and come back. Because this series of weaknesses across and down the north face is the giant steps. The map isn't necessarily enough to navigate with, but we'll look at a photo a little later. And it loops back around to this camp. That's the second day. What does that look like in terms of stats? That's a 3,500 foot day, roughly. But a lot of scrambling and some techie business and steep skiing. Probably less physical than the approach day, but not necessarily shorter in terms of hours.
Yeah.
Next, this is the fun part. This is the getting over to Mount Whitney. Not all that far apart. Mount Whitney's right down here. In the grand scheme of things, pretty close together. But it's this transit that is the reason I wanted to go north to south. From this camp, out past Lake Helen of Troy, Trojan Peak. And Trojan Peak's cool. It's one of the 100 highest peaks in the Sierra. Very seldom traveled, quick side trip from this kind of shoulder pass. I've done this exact route between Williamson Bowl and Whitney, but in reverse. And it wasn't as good the other direction. And here's the reason why. For some reason, this east face of Mount Barnard doesn't hold snow at all. So you're walking up Talus. While this south ramp of Mount Barnard is giant. That's like a 3,000 foot perfect corn run. It's unreal. One of the coolest features in the whole range. Wide open, 30-degree corn skiing for 2,500, 3,000 feet. It was somewhat heartbreaking to climb up that and then have to walk down the other side of it.
Got it.
With the opportunity to invert that, in this case, life's a lot better. Let's just look at the stats of that. That's only 4 miles. We're gonna keep this going. This back in here, Wallace Lake, Teleño Lake, this is all cool, wide open, high country. The Teleño Lake is the highest, by some measures, the highest lake in the United States, maybe in North America.
Wow.
This Russell Carillon Call is a neat little transit over the divide in between those two rad peaks. And then the straight south face of Mount Carillon is a really neat descent to Upper Boy Scout Lake. And that is the logical place to camp number 2. Call that day 3. Install camp 2 here. That puts us in striking distance to Mount Whitney and the Mountaineers route.
So then what were the stats on day 3?
That's a good point. 5,000 feet up roughly, and where's the mileage? I lost the mileage. I can't see where it says the mileage right now.
It's
there it is, 7.5 miles.
Okay.
Timing on that will be important. South-facing skiing is more time dependent than north-facing skiing, right? The Giant Steps is north-facing. We've got a couple different south-facing ski runs on this particular multi-climb, multi-pass day. So it's probably not wrong to build in more of a cushion and make it a whole nother, add a day there in case you need to stop and wait for the next morning's corn. So maybe even call this day 3 and 4 to be prudent. You can camp almost anywhere along the way. The more I think about it, that's the wise way of doing it. Yeah, we'll call that. Oh boy. They're telling me we're running out of time. It's okay. We'll keep going. All right. Mountaineers route from camp up into here. This is all going to be very well traveled. This is the Mountaineers route. It actually shows up on here. Right to the top, then back the same way. What are the stats on that one? A couple thousand feet probably. 3.5 miles. Yeah, 3,300 vertical feet. We'll look at some photos that better spell out the details of that. Back to the same camp. So all the big skiing, both Williamson and Whitney, is done without camping gear. That's left in camp. But that approach day, transit day, has a bigger backpack. And then the exit is down this North Fork of Lone Pine Creek into the Whitney Portal trailhead, depending on the time of year. Maybe the shuttle car is parked right here. Maybe the shuttle car is parked a few miles out, but things are pretty much done by then. That's just exit cruising. Sometimes it's better to ski this than to go on the north side, where the south-facing side, where it could be dry. I've exited from the Boy Scout Lake Zone via Thor Peak. Is a real neat couloir right here. Not out of the question if there's some energy left. Probably not. By that time, it's Burger 30.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that add up to? There's something we call day 5. I think it's going to be most prudent to have 6 days. Yeah. 6 days. Cool. So any questions on the map there? Roughly. It's real rough, right?
Yeah, that all makes sense. I guess the one question I would have is, like, obviously that's one way to do it, and that's a super cool like 6 days. Is it also something where, you would is another version of this trying to do two like big days on Williamson and Whitney without kind of the middle piece, or is it sort of like the middle, the traverse is actually, part of it that's like high value in and of itself that you'd want to include that in there,
Right.
because it's fun by itself. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about like if you're trying to go out, like, because my follow up question to that would be, if you're going to spend 6 days in the Sierra, given your experience, you know, is this where does where do these 6 days rank as compared to maybe a couple other link ups that you would want to consider?
Pretty darn special. The south side of Barnard, very special. Russell Carillon Call is cool. Teleño Lake's a cool place to be. Just out the back, like the back of the napkin calculation here, to do Williamson in a day would burn 3 days.
Yeah.
So if you have to rest the day before, go to sleep early, it would be
Right.
an 18-hour day on the go,
Right.
and then you're destroyed the next day.
Right.
And then Whitney is basically the same program.
Right. Right.
So there you've burned 6 days, but only skied the two peaks.
Yeah.
Whereas the Traverse agenda, you're skiing 6 days, physical beatdown,
Right.
but you're still moving each day. And you've done two more peaks and another couple descents along the way.
Yeah. Okay.
And this agenda too, the Traverse, you're doing the low altitude walking in ski boots or walking in sneakers once and twice versus
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And so then logistically, you do what? You park a car in both places, right? You kind
Yeah.
of have to.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
day zero, you park a car here, and
Yeah.
then drive up to the trailhead the start of the first day.
Got it. And then the second question of, if you're going to spend 6 days walking around the Sierra, I would have thought that this ranks pretty high up there in terms of itineraries.
I wish I thought of it myself.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I'm good on the map.
Cool. Let's look at some photos then. How do I switch? Just pulled up a few photos that I could find. There it is. My parents are watching now. They're waving. It's not way more than 15 minutes. You all good, John, on time?
Yeah, I'm totally good.
Okay. All right. Can you see the photos I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Cool. In no particular order. This is a photo of the north face of Mount Whitney taken from the top of Mount Williamson in 2010, which was average to below average coverage. And just for orientation, that's the summit of the Mount Whitney. This is the upper pitch of the Mountaineers route, the final 400. Some guidebooks refer to it as. And this is the crux, is the hardest skiing. I have a closer up picture we'll look at later. And this is what you want filled in to really like check that box.
Yeah.
Lots of people ski the Mountaineers route, but do this when there's no snow on it. So,
Got it.
which I don't know. Is that as sweet? I don't know. Another way people do it is traverse all the way across on this continuous snow ribbon before hitting that plateau and walking back over.
Got it.
This I just thought was a cool photo. This is Williamson Bowl. This is Mount Tyndall, which is not on your list, not in the 50 classics, but also a mega cool ski descent. I've never done it. This is on a traverse I did through the range. That's my buddy. We just tooled through Williamson Bowl. And I think what's notable about this picture is that this was taken in 2017, a giant year. So, and it's wind scoured. When we talk about like good coverage in the high Sierra, it's not super fat on these plateaus. They get wind scoured. Wicked.
Yeah.
This is the north face of Mount Williamson. There's the true summit of Mount Williamson, taken from the approach, that Sims Creek saddle we looked at for day one. And this is the Giant Steps couloir. It cuts across. It's actually not one couloir, but a series of couloirs with little mini saddles connecting them. Yeah, so that's that. This is the reason it doesn't show up well on a map, is that it's sort of complicated and convoluted.
Right.
Where did more? I thought I had more pictures. I do have more pictures. Hold on. Yeah, here's more pictures. You see those now?
Yep.
Cool. This is the front side, or the east side of the Mountaineers route. This is the couloir. This is also 2017, super fat.
Yeah.
Gives you this is a few days prior to one of those other wind scoured pictures. Just give you a general handle on the difference in west side and east side, and the difference in coverage between the wind scoured and kind of deposited zones. So there's the Mountaineers route. Iceberg Lake is a little landmark off to the side here. What's this picture? This is that final 400 feet in April of 2017. Fat conditions, nice smooth snow. High altitude north facing skiing in the Sierra in April is ridiculously good. Smooth, edgeable, chalky, dry winter snow. Like perfect. And that's what we had here climbing up. We actually climbed up this and skied down a different route, which I can point out. Just another angle on the same thing. Oh, this one is that east face of Mount Barnard on the Traverse Day. This is 2017, the heartbreaking downhill walking descent that we did. For some reason, it's weird that this east side of the mountain is so dry.
Yeah.
And this is the north face of Whitney in a fat year. Here's that final 400 pitch.
Okay.
This is the shady kind of northeast face, and then a sunlit true north face is later in the day. The Mountaineers route, east side gully, descends between this sun line and that shady cliff. Got it. That particular trip, we came up the Mountaineers route to the top and then skied off this side. And you can kind of see our tracks here.
Cool.
And that was just a unique way of doing it, a different way of doing it. It's not necessarily as sweet fall line skiing, but it connects all the way through, and it connected to our ongoing traverse.
Yeah.
I can send you all these pictures. And
cool.
I think I'm going to make like a little website with this video and the various notes we've taken and GPX and these photos and stuff. I just wanted to get the bones of it out there.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that was kind of all the content, all the beta I've got. What are we missing? What's questions you've got, etc.
Well, I um, guess a couple of things that you had listed in your like agenda email.
Oh yeah.
Two things would be kind of like or actually now that I'm looking at, I don't know if you listen. Well, yeah, general prep stuff, fitness, skills, experience, and gear.
Yeah.
So I think fitness. How would you think about that one? I mean, you know, yeah, fitness topic.
I mean, each of the recent seasons you've come to the Tetons, you've had what it takes. Maybe on that note, that the altitude's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You know, that day one goes from 6,000 feet to 12 essentially, and then you're sleeping at 11 or 12. So there's that. That's got to be on the radar.
Yeah.
Team it up with a family ski vacation in Mammoth for 4 days prior. Starts turning giant endeavor, but it's expedition level skiing really. That's going to require some prep like that. You can never be too fit, but your habits up to this point seem in line with what you'd need.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was actually pretty pleased, having gone to the San Juans in January. We were sleeping at like 11,000 something, and I felt pretty good. So, I was surprised by that, but that was a good experience. So I feel like I can figure that one out. And then in terms of gear, what would you think about in terms of a light, camping kind of kit?
You'll want to work up to it. You'll want to go on like a normal winter camping trip, and then start taking parts away. The end goal is to be sleeping in a system that is like a floorless tent that weighs about a pound, sets up with ski poles and skis, and a sleeping bag that weighs about 2 pounds, so they're rated to like 10 degrees or so, on an inflatable, well-insulated pad, like a Thermarest winter style pad. And that combo can weigh, for 2 people, each person's carrying 3 to 4 pounds just camping gear, which isn't that much. And then a food system that allows preparation with just add water. So it's a very simple stove to melt snow with, and freeze-dried style meals. And that can get down to about 2 pounds a day total, including snacks and lunches and breakfasts, and then meals. So on top of day tripping gear, you're looking at 12 pounds of food and 4 or 5 pounds of camping gear per person, rounded up to 20, plus a super light day tripping gear kit. You can get it well under 30 pounds in the backpack. Super rough calculations, but
yeah, got it. Yeah, the camping part is definitely, that's the winter camping piece. That's the new variable.
It is. It's good. That's going to be your crux, and it's to do this style of traverse. At least you're gonna have to build up to it. You're not just gonna buy the gear and go out there and figure it out. You got to figure out what you can eliminate and where you can cut corners and where you can't.
Yeah. And so then, to that end, what would you think is kind of the right, looking at this kind of trip in the same way that we looked at the Grand, kind of what are some of the little steps to take in advance of getting there?
No, that's great. Yeah. Uh, a base camping style trip first. We talked with before the coronavirus changed everything. We were on track to
Yeah.
camp out and ski Mount Moran. Uh, that'd be step one. Then a like 2 or 3 nights. Then a 2 or 3 night traverse without giant physical demands and without technical skiing, just like a classic multi-day point-to-point ski tour. It's options in the Sierra, options at Tahoe, options in the Tetons. That's a whole different thing. Moving every day requires a different sort of organization, a different sort of strategizing. It's camping is just sleeping, but it's not that simple either.
Yeah.
And then with just two trips like that, you'd have a much better handle on what more, if anything, is required.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reason why Moran was interesting was it offers that opportunity to get out, camp, ski some stuff that I've been wanting to ski. And then, in terms of a traverse, are there any kind of, ideas that are either kind of classic or do you think particularly well suited to this objective, either in kind of the two places that I typically ski, which is Tahoe and the Tetons?
Yeah, in the Tetons, I did a cool loop years ago up in the northern part of the park, north of Moran, on and around Ranger Peak, where we went in via Waterfalls Canyon, camped out, and I think it was 4 nights, but we slept. The final night was cool. We slept on the summit of Ranger Peak, so in the morning we watched the sunrise and skied downhill to the car and got pancakes back in town. In the High Sierra, Rock Creek to Mammoth is nice because it's a little more reliable in terms of snow coverage and the stuff down south.
Yeah.
And that's a 2 to 3 day endeavor. Desolation Wilderness around Tahoe has multi-day options. I'm not as familiar with that zone. We could come up with the specifics there. That'd be the closest to home for
Cool.
sure.
Awesome. Trying to think if there's anything else we haven't covered. Yeah. I don't know. Anything on your mind that we haven't talked about?
I think those are the big ones. I mean, I think it's another multi-year process.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the first steps are camping.
Yeah. Cool.
And yeah. And you might decide, screw that camping, let's just do giant day trips on each of the peaks.
The thought crossed my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
in which case, come back to the same conversation and look at it in greater detail. But
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think, the traverse element is cool. And I like the idea of being out there, and some of the, those sort of lesser known parts between Williamson and Whitney. And I think that'd be a really interesting experience. So it's worth trying to think about putting together the building blocks to do a trip like that. So, and like you said, I was already kind of like, my mind was already there until all of our collective plans got disrupted.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But life will return to a new homeostasis shortly here.
Totally. Cool. Yeah, well, I mean, this is like it's an awesome aspirational concept, and it's definitely like, taking root in my own mind. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I feel like I virtually just went on a trip.
Yeah, me too. No, it's a cool idea. So love to make it work.
Awesome. Well, let it sink in, and we'll start watching High Sierra snow sensors religiously.
Pray for snow.
That's right, always.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jed. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, John. Have a great night. Give the best to
Yeah,
my best to your family.
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Uh, Easy, and stay well.
you too.
All
Take
right,
care.
man.
Yeah, bye.
See ya.